A millionaire asked his daughter to choose a new mother from among 5 wealthy women, but he chose the black cleaning lady when he discovered the truth about who really took care of the girl. "This woman shouldn't even be in the same room as us," Serena Vance whispered to the other candidates as she watched Anya Carter silently clean up the crystal shards on the marble floor of the Hayes mansion. The glass had been accidentally knocked over during lunch by the 5 socialites competing to become the new wife of millionaire widower Ethan Hayes. Anya, 28, had been working at the imposing Atlanta mansion for only 3 months, but she had already completely transformed the life of 7-year-old Lily, who had lost her mother in a car accident the previous year. What the candidates didn't know was that every cruel word, every look of contempt, every attempt of humiliation was being carefully observed by someone who kept secrets far deeper than they could imagine. "Daddy, why are those women being mean to Anya?" Lily asked that morning. Hiding behind Ethan's office door, his daughter's innocent question echoed in the businessman's mind as he watched through the security cameras. Anya being humiliated by the 5 candidates who had arrived 2 weeks earlier to participate in his marriage competition. The idea had come from his therapist. Allow Lily to live with different women for a month and choose who she would like to be her new mother. Ethan had carefully selected 5 women from high society: a lawyer, a doctor, a businesswoman, a socialite, and an architect. All white, all rich, all seemingly perfect on paper. But from day one, something disturbing began to happen. The 5 women, led by the cruel Serena Vance, heirs to an oil fortune, had declared a silent war on Anya. Not because she was a threat, after all, she was just the cleaning lady, but because Lily clearly preferred spending time with her than with any of the candidates. "That girl needs to learn about social hierarchy early on," declared Charlotte Pierce, the lawyer, during a dinner party they thought they were attending alone. "It's important that she understands who the appropriate people are for her social class." What they didn't know was that Ethan had installed microphones throughout the house after noticing strange changes in Lily's behavior. The girl, who was finally starting to smile again, had returned to having nightmares and anxiety attacks. Anya, who had a degree in education but was working as a cleaner to support her sick mother, never imagined that her natural kindness toward Lily would trigger such cruelty. Every morning while preparing breakfast, she heard poisonous comments about people who don't know their place and inappropriate influences for children from good families. But there was something none of the 5 candidates noticed. In Anya's eyes shone a quiet determination forged by years of facing prejudices far worse than these. And when she bowed her head in the face of insults, it was not in submission. It was pure strategy from someone who had learned that the best revenge comes to those who know how to wait for the right moment. If you're enjoying this story of how prejudice can turn against the prejudiced, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what these women didn't know was that their days of humiliating Anya were numbered, and their downfall would be far more spectacular than any of them could have imagined. The next morning, Serena gathered the other 4 candidates in the mansion's private library, far from the eyes and ears they imagined were watching them. The plan being hatched was as cruel as it was meticulously calculated. "We need to be strategic about the situation," Serena said, adjusting her diamond earrings as she watched Anya through the window playing hopscotch with Lily in the garden. "That woman is influencing the child in a way that is inappropriate for our social class." Charlotte Pierce, the corporate lawyer, opened her Italian leather address book. "I've checked the legal procedures. Ethan can fire any employee for cultural incompatibility without any labor issues." "Cultural incompatibility is a fancy euphemism," laughed Isabel Thorne, the dermatologist who exclusively served Atlanta's elite. "The problem is more obvious than that." Eleanor Reed, the architect who had designed mansions for 3 governors, shook her head in disdain. "Lily needs to learn early on about appropriate associations. This proximity to the help is creating unrealistic expectations about social relationships." Jacqueline Scott Hayes, to a chain of luxury hotels, was more direct. "Let's stop beating around the bush. The problem is that the black cleaning lady is taking up emotional space that should be ours. Lily should be clinging to one of us, not her." What none of them knew was that Anya had grown up hearing conversations just like this one, the daughter of a housekeeper who had worked for wealthy families for 30 years. She knew every code, every euphemism, every strategy that privileged people use to justify their cruelty. At 14, Anya had witnessed her mother being fired after 20 years of impeccable service simply because her employer's son had become too close to her. The veiled accusation of not knowing her place had echoed through the halls of that Charleston mansion. And now, 14 years later, the same poisonous whispers were resurfacing in Atlanta. But there was something these women couldn't see behind Anya's apparent humility. Her education at Clark Atlanta University had not been just a degree. It had been a silent declaration of war against the system that had tried to break her family. During the 3 years she had worked in public schools before being forced to take domestic jobs to pay for her mother's cancer treatment, Anya had learned to read people with surgical precision. She knew exactly when she was being underestimated, and more importantly, she knew how to use that underestimation to her advantage. "Lily, sweetie," Serena said that afternoon, intercepting the girl as she ran to find Anya in the kitchen. "How about we play something more sophisticated? I brought a chess set back from France, especially for you." "I don't know how to play chess," Lily replied, trying to continue on her way. "That's exactly why you need to learn," insisted Charlotte, gently blocking the hallway. "Intellectual games are important for the development of privileged minds." "Anya taught me how to play checkers yesterday," said Lily, unaware of the tension her words created. She said, "Games help you think better, no matter what they are." Isabel exchanged a meaningful glance with the others. "Honey, there's a difference between different types of games. Some are more appropriate for certain people." It was at that moment that Anya appeared at the kitchen door carrying a tray of still warm cookies. She had heard every word, but her expression remained serene, almost maternal. "Sorry to interrupt," she said with a politeness that bordered on perfection. "Lily, your chocolate chip cookies are ready." The girl's eyes lit up instantly. "Anya, did you make the butterfly-shaped cookies like you promised?" "I did, sweetie, and I saved some extra for after dinner." Serena watched the interaction with growing irritation. The naturalness of the affection between them was undeniable, and it made her mission even more urgent. "Anya," Serena said, trying out the maid's name for the first time, but pronouncing it as if it were an unpleasant foreign word. "Don't you think you're taking on too much responsibility with Lily? We're here to take care of those developmental needs." Anya smiled politely, but something flashed in her dark eyes. "Of course, Miss Serena. I was just following Mr. Ethan's instructions about keeping Lily fed and happy." "Naturally," Jacqueline said, joining the conversation. "But feeding is different from forming emotional bonds. It would be best to maintain an appropriate professional distance." "I understand perfectly," Anya replied, her voice maintaining the same dangerous sweetness. "I've always been taught that caring for children means giving them exactly what they need when they need it." The answer was too polite, too diplomatic, and it made the 5 women uncomfortable. There was something about Anya's calmness that suggested a much sharper intelligence than they had assumed. That night, Ethan watched discreetly through the cameras as the candidates organized their next move. They had decided to document every one of Anya's transgressions, creating a dossier of inappropriate behavior to present to him. What Ethan was discovering was very different from what they thought they were documenting. Each video showed Anya being professional, caring, and genuinely attentive to Lily's needs. In contrast, it showed 5 adult women visibly uncomfortable with a natural affection between a child and her caregiver. But there was something more disturbing emerging from the recordings. Ethan began to notice a pattern in the candidates' actions. Small acts of sabotage, calculated comments designed to undermine Lily's trust in Anya, subtle attempts to create situations where she would appear incompetent. "Daddy," Lily said that night during dinner, "why don't the ladies like Anya?" The question hit the table like a silent bomb. The 5 candidates froze with their forks in midair. "What kind of question is that, sweetie?" Serena said, forcing a motherly smile. "We like all the staff." "That's not true," Lily replied with the brutal honesty of children. "I heard you say she didn't know her place." Ethan felt the blood drain from his veins. "Lily, where did you hear that?" "In the library this morning." They were talking about making Anya go away. The silence that followed was deafening. 5 intelligent, articulate women suddenly found themselves speechless, for a 7-year-old child had exposed their conspiracy with the precision of a seasoned prosecutor. "Lily, you must have misunderstood." Charlotte said quickly. Adult conversations sometimes sound different to children's ears, but Ethan was watching the expressions around the table, and every face confirmed that Lily had understood perfectly. Worse, he was beginning to realize that his daughter wasn't the only one who had been underestimated in this house. Each new humiliation, every attempt to diminish Anya only strengthened something inside her that her oppressors couldn't see. A silent strength fueled by the very injustice they tried to impose, built on years of resistance that had begun long before she set foot in that mansion, and which now grew with a certainty of someone who knows that the best revenge is to let your enemies destroy themselves with their own arrogance. On Wednesday morning, Anya woke up 2 hours earlier than usual and called her older sister Michelle in Washington, D.C. The conversation took place in whispers in the small room she occupied in the mansion's annex. "Michelle, I need you to do something for me," Anya said, looking out the window at the still dark lights of the main house. "Remember those contacts you made when you worked at the Department of Education? Michelle Williams, a graduate of Howard University with a degree in investigative journalism and currently a producer at CNN, immediately sensed the tension in her sister's voice. "Anya, what's going on? You never call me at this time of day. I'm being attacked by 5 wealthy women who want to get me out of here, and I need ammunition to defend myself." For the next 20 minutes, Anya meticulously detailed every humiliation, every racist comment disguised as social concern, every attempt at sabotage. Michelle listened silently, her journalistic experience immediately recognizing the patterns of systemic discrimination she had investigated for years. "Anya, are you sure you want to go to war? These women have resources and connections. Michelle, our mother worked 30 years being humiliated by people like this. I'm not going to repeat her history, not when I have Lily to protect." The mention of Lily made Michelle understand the gravity of the situation. She knew her sister had developed a genuine maternal bond with a child, something that had blossomed naturally after years of working with traumatized children in public schools. "All right, give me their full names in 48 hours. I'll find out everything you need to know." Meanwhile, Ethan stepped up his own silent investigation. He had discreetly hired a private investigator, Liam Thompson, who specialized in background checks on the social elite. What he was discovering about his 5 candidates was disturbing. Serena Vance had been expelled from 2 charitable organizations for financial irregularities that had been hushed up by her family's fortune. Charlotte Pierce had a history of labor lawsuits filed by employees alleging harassment and racial discrimination. Isabel Thorne had lost her medical license in 2 states before settling in Georgia. Eleanor Reed had been investigated by the Internal Revenue Service for tax evasion, and Jacqueline Scott was being sued by 3 former employees of her hotel chain for creating a hostile work environment based on racial discrimination. "Mr. Hayes," Liam said during an encrypted phone call, "these women aren't just prejudiced. They're systemic predators who use their social position to destroy vulnerable people." Meanwhile, at the mansion, the 5 candidates were escalating their attacks on Anya. Serena had devised a meticulous plan to create situations where Anya would appear incompetent or inadequate. "We need to document every mistake, every moment she crosses professional boundaries," Serena instructed during a morning meeting in Charlotte's bedroom. "Ethan is a rational man. With enough evidence, he'll be forced to fire her." Charlotte opened her laptop and showed a document she had prepared. "I've created a detailed behavioral report. Allegations of violation of family privacy, inappropriate influence over Lily, attempts to emotionally manipulate her boss. All lies, but very well substantiated," added Isabel, admiring the legal sophistication of the document. "With my medical background, I can add concerns about psychological impact on the child." Eleanor and Jacqueline exchanged satisfied smiles. They were convinced that they had engineered Anya's perfect destruction, professional, systematic, and impossible to contest by a mere cleaning lady with no resources or formal education. What they didn't know was that Anya had anticipated this strategy exactly. During her years working in public schools, she had faced principals and coordinators who used identical tactics to remove Black teachers who didn't fit in with the institutional culture. That afternoon, while discreetly cleaning Ethan's office, Anya accidentally found the candidate report open on the printer. She quickly read each accusation, each malicious distortion of her interactions with Lily, each attempt to turn her genuine affection into something inappropriate or suspicious. Instead of panic or despair, Anya felt a cold calm spread through her body. It was the same serenity she had developed at 14 when she witnessed her mother being fired for excessive emotional closeness with the children she cared for. That night after Lily fell asleep, Anya made another crucial phone call, this time to her former supervisor at Clark Atlanta University, Dr. Ava Morrison, one of the leading authorities on child development and separation trauma. Dr. Morrison, I need your professional help documenting the emotional well-being of a child in a very delicate situation. Dr. Morrison, who had advised Anya on her dissertation on reparative bonds in orphan children, immediately understood the gravity of the request. Anya, you want me to conduct an independent psychological evaluation? Exactly. And I need it done in a way that will be indisputable in any court or legal situation. During the 40-minute conversation that followed, Anya outlined not only a defense plan, but an offensive strategy that would use the very academic and professional expertise that her attackers assumed she lacked. The next day, Ethan watched through the cameras as the candidates carried out their most cruel sabotage yet. They had hidden Lily's favorite teddy bear, a gift from her late mother, and then discovered the toy in Anya's closet. Lily. "Honey, we found your teddy bear," Serena announced dramatically, pulling the toy out of the closet as Lily cried desperately. "It was in the employee's room." The girl looked at Anya with confusion and hurt. "Anya, why did you take my teddy bear?" "I didn't take it, sweetie," Anya replied calmly, but Ethan could see the pain in her eyes through the camera. Someone must have put him there by mistake. "Mistake?" said Charlotte, finding disbelief. "Lily, did you leave your teddy bear in the employee's room?" "No," whispered Lily, tears streaming down her face. "I always leave him on my bed." Isabel approached and knelt down to the child's height. "Honey, sometimes people, different people, take things that aren't theirs. It's not necessarily out of malice, but out of envy or a desire to have nice things." It was at that moment that Ethan saw something extraordinary happen. Instead of desperately defending herself for protesting her innocence, Anya simply hugged Lily and whispered, "My little one, you know in your heart that I would never take anything of yours. And people who truly love you would never try to confuse that heart." The mature wisdom and unshakable dignity of that response contrasted brutally with the calculated cruelty of the five women. Ethan realized he was witnessing not just racial discrimination, but a systematic attempt to psychologically destroy both his employee and his own daughter. That night, while the candidates secretly celebrated what they considered their definitive victory, Anya received a call from Michelle that would completely change the game. "Sister, you won't believe what I found out about your new friends. And best of all, it's all publicly documented. They're much more vulnerable than they realize." Across the mansion, Ethan made a decision that would seal the fate of the five women. He had seen enough, gathered enough evidence, and come to a conclusion that left him both furious and determined. It was time to stop watching passively and start taking action. But first, he needed to have a very serious conversation with a woman he had completely underestimated, and who was about to discover that she had allies and resources far more powerful than any of her attackers could have imagined. Each new cruelty had not only strengthened Anya's resolve, but had revealed a character that turned each attack into fuel for a response that would be as intelligent as it was devastating, proving that sometimes the person who seems most vulnerable is exactly the one who possesses the most lethal weapons in a war his enemies didn't even know they had lost. The following Friday, Ethan called a special meeting. He had discreetly invited Dr. Ava Morrison, Michelle Williams from CNN, and investigator Liam Thompson. The five candidates showed up thinking they would finally receive the decision on who would be chosen. "Ladies, before I announce my decision, I would like to share some interesting findings," Ethan said, turning on the screen in the room. Serena smiled confidently. "Sure, Ethan. We're eager to hear them." The first image that appeared was a news article. "Serena Vance diverts charity funds." Serena's photo was splashed across the headline. "That's a lie," Serena shouted, her face turning red. "Is it?" asked Michelle, standing up. "I'm Michelle Williams, CNN. I confirm every word of this report." Ethan clicked to the next slide. Charlotte Pierce appeared being sued for racial discrimination against 3 black employees. "Ethan, this is out of context." Charlotte tried nervously. "Context," interrupted Liam Thompson. "I'm a private investigator. All of these documents are public and verified." The next images devastated Isabel, Eleanor, and Jacqueline one by one. Lawsuits for medical malpractice, tax evasion, hostile work environment. You are all systemic predators, Ethan said coldly, and I have documented every attack you have made against Anya. He played the recordings. The voices of the 5 women echoed through the room. Racist comments, plans for sabotage, the setup with Lily's teddy bear. This is invasion of privacy. Serena yelled, "In my own home!" Ethan laughed bitterly. "Where you plotted to destroy an innocent person?" Dr. Morrison approached. As a child development expert, I evaluated Lily this week. The child demonstrates healthy restorative bonds with Anya, which are essential to her post-traumatic development. Lily, who had been called into the room, ran straight to Anya. "Anya, you're not leaving, are you?" "No, sweetheart," Anya said calmly, hugging the girl. Ethan looked directly at the 5 women. Anya Carter has a degree in education from Clark Atlanta University, 3 specializations in child development, and impeccable references. You assume she was just a cleaning lady because she's black. Serena tried one last card. "Ethan, you're making a terrible mistake. Think of the social standing, the future of Lily." "I am thinking," Ethan interrupted. "Anya, will you marry me?" The silence was deafening. Anya looked at Lily, then at Ethan. "I will!" Lily screamed with joy. "Now Anya will be my real mom." The 5 candidates were in total shock. Serena was as pale as a sheet. "Impossible," Isabel whispered. "You're going to marry the maid." "I'm marrying the most honest woman I know," Ethan replied. "The woman who cared for my daughter with true love while you plotted to destroy her out of pure prejudice." Michelle was filming everything. This story will be on the air Monday. Racist socialites expose the fall of 5 elite predators. Her reputations, careers, and social circles are destroyed, Liam added. All documented and irrefutable. Serena tried to leave, but Ethan stopped her. "Oh, one last thing. I'm suing all of you for conspiracy, slander, and attempted destruction of character. My lawyers are already on it." The 5 left the mansion humiliated, photographed by the journalist Michelle had called. Their cell phones were already ringing with angry calls from clients, friends, and family who had seen the first news stories leaking on social media. Anya remained standing, dignified and serene, holding Lily in her arms. "Thank you for believing in me," she said to Ethan. "Thank you for showing me what really matters," he replied, kissing her gently. While the former contestants faced the total collapse of their privileged lives, a new family was born. Built on true love, mutual respect, and the ultimate victory of dignity over prejudice, proving that sometimes the greatest revenge is simply to live well. While those who tried to destroy you watch their own mask fall publicly, revealing to the whole world who they really always were behind all that false sophistication. 2 years later, Michelle's article had become a case study on racial discrimination in journalism schools across the country. The 5 women faced devastating and permanent consequences. Serena Vance lost her family inheritance when the board discovered her charitable embezzlement. Today, she works as a sales clerk in a department store, constantly recognized by customers who saw the story. Charlotte Pierce was fired from her law firm and had her license suspended. Eleanor Reed went bankrupt after losing all her architectural clients. Isabel Thorne moved to another state after her clinic closed. Jacqueline Scott sold her hotels to pay workers' compensation claims. Meanwhile, Anya prospered in an extraordinary way. Ethan had insisted that she finish her master's degree in special education, and now she ran a foundation that offered scholarships to underprivileged children to study music and the arts. "Mom, Anya, look what I learned on the piano today," Lily shouted, running home after class. At 9, she had mastered 3 instruments and spoke fluent Portuguese after lessons with Anya's grandmother, who had moved into the mansion. The family had grown. 6-month-old Lucas Hayes slept peacefully in Anya's arms as she organized documents for the foundation named after Lily. "Honey, another thank you letter," Ethan said, handing her the envelope. "This time it's from a mother in Detroit whose son got a full scholarship to study violin." Anya smiled, remembering the conversation she had had with Lily. The week before, the girl had asked why the mean girls had tried to send her away. "Sweetie, some people are born with everything and think that makes them better than others. But you know what the secret is?" Anya had replied, "People like that always destroy themselves because kindness and cruelty cannot live in the same heart." During an interview on the country's most watched morning show, Ethan was asked about his controversial decision to marry Anya. Controversial? He laughed. I married a woman who is educated, intelligent, saved my daughter from depression, and taught me the true meaning of family. If that's controversial, then the problem isn't with me. The host pressed on. But what about the social differences? What differences? Ethan replied, looking directly at the camera. My wife has a master's degree, runs a foundation that has benefited 1,000 children, speaks 3 languages, and raises my children with more love and wisdom than any socialite could ever dream of having. Anya watched from home, Lily on her lap, smiling proudly at the man who had chosen to love her exactly as she was. At Lily's school, other children constantly asked about her famous mother. She's the bravest woman in the world, Lily would reply proudly, and she makes the best chocolate cake, too. Anya's true revenge had not been to destroy her attackers. It had been to live so well that her happiness became living proof that people like Serena were fundamentally wrong about human worth. That Sunday morning, as she watched Ethan playing with her children in the garden, where she had once been humiliated, Anya reflected on how life had changed. It wasn't just that she had one. It was that she had turned her victory into something greater than herself. Love, Ethan called from the garden. Come here. Lily wants to show you the song she wrote for you. Anya walked toward the family she had built, knowing that sometimes the greatest revenge against prejudice is not to strike back with anger, but to respond with so much love and success that you completely rewrite the rules of the game. If you believe that dignity and true love always win out over prejudice and evil, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that in the end, those who truly love always find their place in the world. And that place is always bigger and more beautiful than their enemies could ever imagine.